Hey everybody, Dixie here, coming to you on what appears to be a very somber occasion. We are heading to Tribal. It's been an interesting post immunity um, progression. Spyro won immunity, but then he gave it to Quilava. Um, and so basically, I never really wanted to vote Quilava. I think I was open to voting Leah, um, but also open to voting Steve here. On the other tribe, Celestia won immunity shock. Um, no one keyed, so I guess we'll see what happens here. It's just really hard. So Spyro gave his immunity to Quilava. Like I said, I don't think that it was necessary. I don't think Quilava was actually in real danger. I think that Zag and Conquer may have pushed for Quill, but I just don't think that really made sense for Aerith or me to piss off Spyro, um, and potentially have him left in the game with an idol angry at us. It Today's been interesting. So in the fallout from everything, we kind of were talking amongst the activists just about kind of where this vote's going to go. And one thing that has come up consistently from others is that Steve just talks a lot, but there's not a lot of substance in what he's saying to you in terms of game. Like, very lovely person, very interesting person, very conversational, very lovely, but very cards close to his chest. And so for me, that's concerning because there's also been talk that apparently um, Steve came into the game and felt a certain way about kind of who he wanted to ride with, which were, I guess, the relationships that he came into the game with. And that has felt like I'm not getting a lot from Steve, aside from, pleasant conversation, which is appreciated. I prefer somebody that can conversate with me over somebody who doesn't talk to me at all. But I know he's not being that way with everybody. I know he's opening up to Conquer about his feelings, about how he would like the power structure of the tribe to be. Um, I know that he's proposing groups that include himself and Zag and Conquer and Ochette and I think even Spyro and Quill. And so for me, it's kind of like, okay, that leaves 3 people. Aerith was on your original tribe. Leah, I know that you apparently at least have some fondness for, just based on how everyone's been talking. So it's kind of like, okay, that leaves me as like the one probably like ideal world option for Steve. I don't know that he necessarily has, the social capital to accomplish that, but why would I leave somebody in the game that is not going to prioritize me at all? And I think it's particularly rich that everyone is so kind of hung up about my relationship with Conquer and Zag when it's the exact reverse side of the coin when it comes to Steve, if not worse, because at least Zag and Conquer don't seem to be directly coming for a lot of these people, but I just can't help but shake the fact that I think that Steve is going to be, in a perfect world, willing to let me go. So this morning. We kind of talked through it, given that Quill isn't an option anymore. I think that Zag and Steve, Zag and Conquer, we're hoping that maybe they could push Spyro, which is not ideal for me for several reasons. One, I feel like we're going to need his idol, which they don't know that he has the idol, but they don't need to know as far as I'm concerned. And it's not something I'm really interested in, trying to blindside Spyro to better Zag and Conquer's position. And I think Aerith felt the same way. So, yeah, it's just been kind of tough. At the same time, Ochette is refusing to really voice any opinion on what she wants to see happen here. So it's like, if you don't have an opinion, I'm going to tell you kind of where I'm at. And then if you're going to be upset about it, I don't know how to handle that. And I'm not trying to fault her, but it's just, I feel like I was honest with her kind of about where I'm at with Steve, just based on what I've heard from folks. And now it seems like Steve might be the one to go, and it seems like it's really having an effect on her. So, I understand why it would. I just wish she would have felt comfortable enough with me to kind of express her feelings before the ball really got rolling, with respect to just other people being willing to do Steve for similar reasons. So it's complicated too, because Zag and Conquer are under the impression that Steve is the most likely person to be holding the Caelid idol. So we're not doing the best job characterizing this as a blindside. But it also makes sense to do Steve because he has the key next round, and it's just like, ugh. I wouldn't have been opposed to a Leah vote here, but no one was giving me anything, so I decided to see kind of what I could make happen. And now it just feels like everybody is super down and depressed. So I don't really want to showcase any of that in the DMs, but I guess, well, he's driving 1 sec. Apparently he is I'm sorry, I'm in the office, so I'm kind of trying to keep my voice down, because I don't know who's still here. I've heard the door slam a couple of times, but okay, back to all that. Anyway, this is just hard for Ochette, so I want to respect her, and I don't really want to put whatever she's typing on blast to me right now, because I know she's emotional and said she's tearing up on her flight home from Guatemala, and it's making me sad. I just feel like a shitty person because I could be the reason that her friend goes, and she's telling me she feels powerless, which I know is not a great feeling in the game. So I'm just not going to even open that DM right now, just out of respect for her. My computer is dying shortly. It looks like there's 14% left. So we're going to have to make this fairly quick. I think the long and the short of it is that I think it'll be a unanimous vote for Steve at this point, which I'm kind of glad about, because as much as I trust Conquer and Zag, um, there's always, my paranoid brain kicks in. Like, so if Dixie and Aerith vote for Steve, and say even Spyro and Quilava do that too, but Ochette throws a sympathy vote against Leah or Zag or somebody. With Zag's extra vote, Conquer and Leah and Steve and Zag could come in and 5-4-1 it. So honestly, the best insurance policy is everybody voting for Steve. Because if it ties, then we'll know. We'll have more information on who we can trust. So that's how it's looking right now. Ochette wants to tell Steve. I'm just like, that's fine, I understand. I just don't want it to become a whole thing where people are like, wait, Steve knows, he's definitely an idol. And then try to switch to Spyro, because that's just... bleh. I mean, to be fair, I've brought up the prospect of throwing votes onto somebody else in activists, and nobody wanted to do that. So, for what it's worth, it does feel like there are other options here, as opposed to flipping the entire thing onto like Spyro. Which is not happening, even as frustrated with Spyro as I am right now, because he's making it out to be this big thing that Quilava was targeted because of their marriage, and honestly, that's never been the case. If anything, we kept Quilava around because Spyro felt a certain way. And as much as I've grown to like Quilava, in any other scenario, Quilava would have been gone back when Drybones went home, or Crash. So it's just kind of like it. And now the fact that he's complaining about it while Quilava is immune is just even more annoying. So love you, Spyro, but that perspective, I feel like you just need to let it go, sister. Just need to let it go. So in sum, before my laptop dies, I do want to just do a quick tier ranking. I feel like this could change a lot depending on what happens tonight. I think if things do go haywire and Conquer and Zag are not with us and are trying to establish some sort of majority with Leah and with Steve, I think unfortunately Aerith would probably be the casualty, because she has that monster key. And I think they think that they can work me better. And I think it might be the easiest to get all of their votes on the same page. So yeah. But if things are as I expect they are, then I feel like Aerith has been my ride or die this round. Conquer is still an S. I love Conquer. I think his heart just gets him in trouble sometimes, because he has so many... his heartstrings are pulling him in multiple directions. So I can tell he doesn't want to vote for Steve, but he also doesn't want to vote for Leah. And so he's kind of, in his heart, defaulting onto Spyro because there's been some tension there. But unfortunately, it's not best friends race. So as hypocritical as that might sound, because I'm kind of, setting myself up with relationships in the cast going forward, I do feel like coming out of all of this, I think it has solidified Aerith more with Conquer and Zag. And so I want to take Och and Spyro as far as I can, but I think in the confines of this game, my loyalty would be to activists. We're going to say Zag is still an A. Leah's a B. Leah's such an interesting one because she's kind of surviving on the skin of her teeth round after round. Conquer is doing a lot of heavy lifting to keep her here, to the point where if and when we go back to tribal, it's not going to be an easy decision um, regarding who goes next, just because of kind of the whole setup. But who knows? Maybe we merge tonight. Probably not, but maybe. Spyro's an A in my heart, but kind of a B this round. Same for Ochette. And then Steve. It's hard. I feel bad putting Steve in D because I do like Steve, but just game-wise, the compatibility is not there. And then Quilava, I think, is a solid C. So all of that's to say, I need to check these DMs. Let's see what Zach has to say. Okay, well, yeah. I don't know, y'all. This is a shit show. Dixie out. Talk later. Maybe, if I live.